Hi guys, and welcome back to the next video in my series on all of the 7 poems I would recommend taking in with you in your mind into the exam from the Power and Conflict anthology. This time it is the poem The Emigree. If this is the first video you've clicked on, this is part of this series, so there are other videos. Because The Emigree is sort of like poem number 6, I think, you'd probably be better off to start with what this exercise is all about, which is basically how I came up with choosing these particular 7 poems. I would recommend watching that video first and then coming back and working your way through all of the poems. So let's talk about the Emigree. As always, going to start with form. It's not a great one for form, guys, to be honest. It's not a great one for form. It's written in free verse. And free verse is where there is no rhyme and no rhythm. And how can you analyze it? It's actually a really good one to analyze because free verse creates this sense of freedom, a lack of control, a lack of order, perhaps chaos. And we can kind of use that here in a way. She is free from the tyrants. We'll have a look at the language and some of the quotes, but she says in stanza 1, it may be sick with tyrants, her city that she's come from. So we could use free verse to kind of link into that, the sense that she has got away from this sort of dictatorship that she used to be living in. And then caesura. So you've got a couple of caesuras in stanza 2 and stanza 3. You'll see them in pink down here. So we've got, let's have a look. I can't get it off my tongue. Caesura, it tastes of sunlight. I'm going to come back to that and do some analysis on that in a moment. And then in the second stanza, third story, of walls, caesura, they accuse me of absence. And then below that, my city hides behind me, caesura, they mutter death. So there's a couple of nice caesuras actually, which, what do? Well, they kind of break the flow of the line. They force you to stop. And the way I would analyze, particularly that second stanza one, the one that you can see at the top there, it tastes of sunlight. The way I would analyze that is it creates a simple sentence. The caesura creates a stop and then just it tastes of sunlight. 4 words, creates a very short, a simple sentence because there's no connective in it and it's one phrase long. And that's great to analyze actually because it helps to emphasize that idea. And it happens to be a metaphor as well. So what does it do? It emphasizes the metaphor, the idea of sunlight being her magical memory of the city she came from. I'm going to talk a little bit more, I think, in detail about the extended metaphor here in the poem of Sunlight. But this is a great quote for me. And remember, what we're looking for is 2 language techniques, 2 structure techniques, and 2 form. This is a great one. It gives me the caesura. It gives me the metaphor. It tastes of sunlight. It gives me repetition of sunlight as well, which happens at the end of every stanza. And it gives me simple sentence. 4 techniques, guys. You know, and this is what I call a golden technique. A golden quote, sorry. Because it gives me multiple techniques for the price of just 1 quote. So for me, number 1, like that is probably my best quote. So let's talk about this extended metaphor of sunlight then. We'll move into language, having picked out free verse and caesura. Notice that at the bottom of every stanza, there is some link towards the idea of sunlight. And how can we analyze sunlight? What is it? What does that create for us? Well, sunlight is obviously warmth. Sunlight is life, because of course that's how all the plants grow and stuff like that. It's bright, so it could be seen as kind of like purity, a form of purity. And now let's look at how she uses the word sunlight, the poet Carol Ruman. So from the very top, I'm just going to pick out all the examples of where sunlight is used, all the relevant ones. So at the very top, my memory of it is sunlight clear, meaning the memory of her city is crystal clear, so clear. You know, she can see it in her mind. It's sunlight clear. Then at the bottom of that stanza, I am branded by an impression of sunlight. Branded meaning I'm owned by it. I've been I have the city. If the sunlight in the metaphor is the city, it's like it's within me. I'm branded by the impression of sunlight or the city. Basically saying I can't get rid of the city that's in my blood almost. Then at the bottom of the next stanza, as we've just talked about, a taste of sunlight. This would be a good metaphor to pick out here because I think it is the city. The city tastes of sunlight, warmth, purity, and life. It tastes of life and purity. And this, of course, is all about communicating her love of her city and the strength of her memory towards her city. And then the final stanza in the last line, my shadow falls as an evidence of sunlight. Again, obviously repetition of sunlight, which is going back to the idea that within her is the sense of sunlight, the city. My shadow falls as an evidence of sunlight. So even my shadow, within my shadow is my city, i.e. the sunlight. There's a bit of a juxtaposition there as well, because obviously shadow is a form of darkness, and yet there is sunlight in the shadow, which is kind of an interesting juxtaposition and obviously more of a metaphor. But I think the main thing that I want to analyze here, guys, is the repetition of the idea of sunlight, the use of sunlight as imagery and as an extended metaphor of light and life, justice maybe as well. So anyway, it tastes of sunlight, caesura, simple sentence, repetition of sunlight, metaphor. Fantastic. What else shall I pick out for language? Well, I've got loads of choices actually, guys. Look at everything on the right-hand side there. There's so much to analyze. And a lot of it is all about memory, actually. Whoops. I accidentally jumped down to tissue. Where are you, Emigree? Where are you? Remains. Oh no, maybe I need to go down. Sorry about that. There we go. It may be sick with tyrants. Of course, it's a metaphor, but what does it do? Well, it creates this metaphor that the city is kind of diseased with this authoritarian leadership, a tyrant. And of course, that's what it's all about, isn't it? The emigre. It's all about kind of emigrating away from your city or where you're originally from. In this context, she's talking about, or she's telling a story, the poet, about someone leaving because of conflict, because of war. So it is a conflict poem, but it also has a really strong idea of the power of memory as well, and the power of identity. It's actually a really good poem. That's why it's in my 7. Power of identity, which can link obviously with the other identity poems. We're going to do checking out my history after this one. So identity, you've got memory, and you've got conflict as well. So it's a great one. There's another metaphor I want to talk about on the basis of conflict, which is the graceful slopes glow even clearer as time rolls its tanks. Now, this is an interesting metaphor. Think of the imagery here. Time having a tank. What are tanks? They are destructive. They destroy. They're hard and, very powerful. Time has a tank. Time is destructive. What does time destroy? Memory. So look at now what she's saying about the power of her memory. The white streets of that city, the graceful slopes glow even clearer as time rolls its tanks. So it doesn't matter that time is destructive on memory. My memory gets even clearer. So it's about this power of memory. It's so strong, it's so clear, and it's brilliant to analyze. So I really, really do like that metaphor there. I quite like a hollow doll. The simile creates some quite nice imagery there that in leaving the city that she grew up in, she left there going to another country in another language. And if she was a hollow doll, the language, it was hollow because it was kind of meaningless where she was going. So I think that's quite an interesting idea. My city takes me dancing through the city is quite nice for personification. There's some other really nice personification too. It lies down in front of me. I comb its hair and love its shining eyes. so much personification for this relationship between the speaker and the city in her memory. So, to be honest, it's a great one for language. As I say, not a great one for form. My language that I would choose would probably be maybe one of the personification. I comb its hair and love its shining eyes, and it tastes of sunlight. I've got to have that one because it gives me some other quotes as well. And then maybe time rolls its tanks too as well. Structure, I've already talked about sunlight, the repetition of that idea of sunlight. There is a nice semantic field of war, which is like, it may be at war, it may be sick with tyrants, tanks as well. So you do have enough examples here of a semantic field. There's enough words to do with war and chaos and conflict to link in with that. It's not a great one for structure. You could talk about first person if you wanted to. So I left it as a child. I receive of it can never break. I never saw it. I mean, first person, to be honest, guys, is a little bit of an easy winner because first person is so easy to analyze. What's the effect on the reader of first person narrative? Well, makes the story much more personal. It makes us able to connect with it better, maybe, because it feels more like a conversation between the speaker and the reader. It's like they're talking to us with I. It becomes much more of a personal sharing of an experience. You could even argue it makes us feel like we are in that story as well, because we read it as I. It becomes like we are in the story more. You could argue, kind of depends on how the story is really communicated. But yeah, first person is a little bit of an easy one too. So down at the bottom, as always, pause the video if you want to read that little summary, which is done by an ex-student of mine. I've got ideas on the left-hand side: conflict, power of identity, power of memory, and sunlight. Pretty straightforward, pretty easy, and that is why it's in my 7, because there's a really clear-cut journey to all of those key ideas. The techniques are really interesting to analyze. They're great too. Not a great bit context on this isn't great, worth looking into, but in terms of like Carol Rumens herself, has not experienced this, so it is worth looking into the context, of course, because you do get marks on it for AO3. But there you go, guys. That is the Emigree. I think it covers lots of other comparison poems. So any identity poem, it's going to cover you for. Anything on memory, like poppies or remains and effects of conflict too, it's going to cover you for. So it does a lot of jobs, this poem. It's a heavy worker. It covers you for a lot of bases. Plus, on top of that, the techniques I think are great. And there's so many. I mean, just look at all that green on the right-hand side. So much for language you can talk about, which of course language is the one that most people are confident with analyzing. So I don't blame you for looking at this and going 100%, I would choose the Emigree. And there you go. That's that done. If you're my student, of course, thank you so much for watching. Really appreciate it. If you're new to the channel and you did like it, have a look at the other videos. There's lots of information there, lots of stuff that can help. Leave a like on the video if you liked it. Leave a comment if you have any further questions. And thanks so much. I will see you in the next one.